Hello, and thank you for joining the FreightWaves Net Zero Summit on Sustainability and Freight Transportation. I'm Mike Baudendistel. I'm an analyst and market expert here at FreightWaves, and I'm joined today by Josh Raglin. Josh is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern is one of the U.S. Class 1 railroads, and Josh was appointed this role a little over a year ago in March of 2020. Previously, he was the general manager of facilities and has led a number of the company's projects related to conservation and sustainability. Josh, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Mike, and happy Earth Day.
Josh, can you tell me a little bit about why you decided to pursue that role within Norfolk Southern as Chief Sustainability Officer after having other positions inside the organization? You've been in that role for about a year. How have you spent your time during that past year, and what would you hope ultimately like to accomplish in that role?
I was really fortunate to start working with our Chief Sustainability Officer going back to 2007 when we first established our program. And we had a lot of traction, and it was great just being involved in spreading the message of sustainability across the company. Last year has been really engaging, should I say, engaging with all the stakeholders at Norfolk Southern, across the company as we interweave sustainability in our decision making at the department level, and engaging with our investors, engaging with our customers. So really utilizing a lot of the previous contacts that I had made throughout the company to take our message of sustainability even further. A lot of the experiences I've gained through such things as ecological restoration, forested ecosystems, endangered species management, carbon projects, a lot of those things that I can take to the next level at Norfolk Southern.
That's great. And when I think about the Class 1 railroads and think about sustainability there, you often put that in context of other surface transportation, and then the railroads are certainly more fuel efficient relative to truck. And can you think about where the most opportunity lies in terms of improving the efficiency of a railroad operation? Is it upgrading equipment or improving terminal operations, or where do you see the most sort of low hanging fruit there?
The railroads, we have a great sustainability story as just an industry. We've made so much progress on fuel efficiency going back to 1980. We've almost doubled our fuel efficiency since then. And we're getting better. Every year there's new technologies coming out. There's not probably a lot of low hanging fruit left, but we're making a lot of incremental change every year. Norfolk Southern just last year alone improved our fuel efficiency 5%. Through a number of different categories, a number of different ways we're getting there. But there's still opportunity in the future, and the railroads are going to continue to challenge, our own selves as far as fuel efficiency goes. And we're going to challenge the manufacturers as well, because we really depend on them to provide that next level of technology that we need, in particular to decarbonize.
That's great. And what do you think the industry is headed? Where do you think the industry is headed in terms of sustainability? Like, what is really a sustainable, railroad? Is it all the way that's, carbon neutral or something close to that? How do you think about that?
Mike, I think of it as being a solution for our customers now, because right now we can help our customers reduce their emissions up to 75% just through modal shift. And so that right there is a superpower. That doesn't take technology to do that. That just it takes working with our customers, and we're doing that. We're doing that on a proactive basis, working with our customers to convert product from road to rail. So that's the first way we're going to do it right there. Secondly, of course, there's a lot of pilot projects occurring in the rail industry, various fuel-related sources. Renewable diesel, it offers a lot of opportunities there. The problem is capacity. There's not enough capacity in that market. There's not going to be in the near term. Most of that's going to California due to their low carbon fuel standard. But I think longer term, that's going to be an opportunity for us. I think hydrogen, long term, if we really think about how do you decarbonize freight transportation, hydrogen has been doing that in the passenger rail segment for several years now, mostly over in Europe. There was some of the new pilot projects coming out, some of the announcements by some of the OEMs. It has a potential. There's challenges. There's definitely challenges with hydrogen. If you look at the density, of the energy, if you look at having to have a tender behind the locomotive, but it's a possibility long term.
With hydrogen or some of those other alternative fuels, how long do you think it will be before we see those being adopted by the Class 1 railroads in large numbers? I think part of the challenge there is that locomotives are very long-lived assets. It's not like a truck that you need to replace every few years.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. I mean, just the Class 1s alone, I think, own around 27,000 locomotives. So how long does it take to change out a fleet? So it's definitely going to have to be something that is, you're not changing out the units, you're just refurbishing the units, which is something that Norfolk Southern has been doing for a number of years. So I think if the cost works out to where you can actually change over to hydrogen technology using the existing locomotive platforms, I think that's a lot more realistic from a capital expenditure standpoint. From a fueling standpoint, how do you change out that fueling infrastructure? Diesel, we've got over 49 fueling stations on Norfolk Southern in 22 states. How do you scale out that infrastructure change? Not saying it's not possible, it's just one of the challenges. And then you've got the shared assets. Whatever route we go, the other roads have to go as well.
Which freight corridors should I watch closest for conversion from truck to rail? We have all this data that says very specifically intermodal volume and truck volume on corridors. But which do you think there's the most opportunity on your network?
As far as the volume related corridors go, you're going to be looking at Atlanta, Chicago, and Chicago across to the Northeast to New Jersey. Those are the high volume corridors that offer the most opportunity for over the road conversions, but also particular fuel adaptations as well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the specific actions that Norfolk Southern has taken? You've touched on this a little bit, but I just wanted to understand some of the specific things that Norfolk Southern is doing, maybe in certain locations, throughout your network.
I think just focusing on locomotives in general, Mike, the DC to AC conversions has really helped us in fuel efficiency and in power. Those conversions have allowed us to downsize our fleet. Traditionally, 2 AC units can replace 3 DC units. It increases horsepower slightly, increases fuel efficiency. We're going to accomplish over 500 of those by the end of the year, and that program's been ongoing since 2016. On the energy management front, we've got almost 100% of our road locomotives now equipped with some form of energy management technology, which allows us significant energy savings. And we're rolling out additional software upgrades to Smart Planner HPT. Traditionally it was a manual process for horsepower per ton, so you really didn't have a way to control the remaining locomotives in the consist. Smart Planner HPT is going to do that for us automatically. So on a route that's once you get up to speed, you may not need those trailing locomotives. And so Smart Planner HPT can actually take down the horsepower of those locomotives, and in some cases completely idle those. So that technology is rated by the EPA for an additional 5% reduction or improvement in fuel efficiency. And that's just a couple of the opportunities that we're undertaking on the locomotive front.
Yeah, that's impressive with all the advancements that can be made to fuel efficiency. I mean, you think of railroads as being this very old industry, and you're still using steel track and steel wheels, but there's a lot that can be done in terms of improving the efficiency of the equipment, of driving the equipment more efficiently, et cetera. I wanted to have you describe for us the announcement that you're making for Earth Day. We saw the announcement today for Earth Day. I just wanted to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. Being that it is Earth Day, Norfolk Southern, we want to make the announcement here with you, Mike, that we are committing to the Science-Based Targets initiative. So we will be signing a commitment letter. We've already done that. And we will be, over the next few months, developing our targets, submitting those to the Science-Based Target Initiative for validation, and expecting to have those publicly released later this year. So with our commitment, our industry, the Class 1s in particular, have all committed to science-based targets. And I think that's significant. If you look at our industry, there is no other industry out there that is leading in that regard. And so we're already providing a low carbon economy, and we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to drive efficiency. And at the same time, we're going to challenge the OEMs. The next 5 years, there's more of a clear path there. What does it look like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, as we look at these targets? And so we're going to need some assistance in that regard. But we're challenging ourselves, and as an industry, I think we're challenging other sectors.
What was the driver behind that decision, and is there a lot of investment that needs to be made in your facilities or equipment in order to meet those standards?
I think the driver overall for the rail industry was to recognize that we're already providing low carbon economy. We're going to continue to provide efficiency, and to recognize that climate change is real and we have a role to play there. And so whatever we can do to help to decarbonize, because at the end of the day, our emissions are our customers' emissions. So how can we go out and help our customers lower their emissions? So part of it was driven by customers, expectations of our customers. For most manufacturers and retailers, a significant portion of their emissions are contracted transportation. And so we're going to do our part to help our customers to decarbonize their shipments.
Yeah, that's great. And I wanted to ask you about those customers. I assume that you have a lot of customers that are coming to you and want, more sustainable solutions within their supply chain. And, part of the reason why someone wouldn't do intermodal before is it is typically a slower service, maybe a little bit less time definite than highway. Are you seeing, a lot of customers go to, intermodal, for that sustainability benefit, and maybe elevating that over the fastest possible service levels?
Yeah, Mike, there definitely is a trend that way. Just since I've been in this position the last year, the number of our existing customers that inquire about emissions. They want to know what their emissions are on Norfolk Southern, but they also want to know what they avoided. What did they avoid by shipping that product via rail? And they're looking at other lanes. They're looking at truck lanes right now. And we're even seeing in some RFPs where they're wanting to know what would my emissions be if I ship this product via rail, and how much would I be avoiding? So I think that trend is really picking up steam, and I think it's going to continue to do so. Particularly as more people, more of our customers set targets around their emissions. So once you commit to science-based targets, if over 40% of your emissions are in your scope 3, which would be contracted transportation, then you have to set a goal around those as well. So at Norfolk Southern, we know right now that over 25% of our customers they publicly report to CDP, which means they have carbon reduction goals. So we're definitely targeting those customers for future conversions because we can help them and be part of that solution.
That's great. Within supply chains, do you think there's going to be, a shift in port market share as a result of, customers ultimately wanting to, have more sustainable supply chains? I mean, you would think that, all water routes from Asia through the Panama Canal to the East Coast would be a more fuel efficient, environmentally friendly solution than, say, going through the port of LA Long Beach for freight that's destined for Eastern consumption centers. Do you think that that's going to be a trend we're going to see?
I think it's a trend we're already seeing, and I think it's a trend that's going to continue to pick up. You want to go the shortest distance between two points. You want to do a straight line, and so if that means bringing ships around to the East Coast, and the Eastern ports are prepared for that. They're preparing for the larger container ships. A number of them are already able to take on those ships. And so I think you're going to see the port business align with the regions of the U.S. that product is going.
That's good. Another question I wanted to ask is on refrigerated intermodal. That's been an area that has lagged, dry goods. It's, more service intensive, but it does seem like there's a big opportunity there considering where most agriculture products are grown. You think a lot in the Central Valley of California, a lot of that's consumed thousands of miles away in some place like New York or Chicago or Atlanta. How do you see refrigerated intermodal participating in the broader intermodal segment in the coming years?
We're definitely seeing the demand in that space. And as we think about long haul trucking, we think about sustainability. The thing that we have to have for that to work for NS and work for the customers is the product delivery. You got to have the reliability. You can't have that that product being delayed a day or 2 days. So until we can get to the point where we've got consistent, reliable service, it's going to be hard to compete in that market. But I think we'll get to that point. But we've got to have the delivery schedule that those customers expect.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the last thing you want to do is have a container of food spoil because there was some issue with terminal congestion or something like that. Also wanted to ask you, I guess with intermodal, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the sense about the middle of last year. A lot of that was related to the elevated level of imports. A lot of that was related to a very tight truckload market. But before that, you go back to the previous few years, there really hasn't been or was not during that period of time a lot of intermodal growth. And some people attribute that to the railroads focusing on operating ratio, maybe not pricing their service sufficiently below truckload in order to attract that freight. How do you think those trends happen going forward, and maybe when the dust settles with COVID, do you think intermodal can get back to being sort of the growth area in railroading that it once was?
Yeah, we are highly focused on intermodal. We've invested significantly in our own intermodal franchise. We have over 50 terminals. We operate in the eastern United States. Congestion is going to continue to be an issue on highways. Intermodal is definitely the growth engine that we're investing in. We're shipping around 4 million containers a year, and that's only going to go higher. I mean, we're going to continue to take, loads from the highway, convert those loads with reliable service, with targeted service to specific customers, with good pricing, good pricing for the value of what they're getting for that service. Because at the same time, they're not just buying logistics. They're buying sustainability with every single shipment. You're reducing your emissions, around 60% for every load that you convert over to rail. And that's becoming more of a factor that we're seeing in the marketplace.
Which customer categories is most ripe for conversion from truck to intermodal, and then is there also an opportunity to convert some truckload business to rail carload business?
I think as far as the customers more interested in conversions, or let's say this, interested in lowering their emissions, they seem to be more European-based companies that are really focused in right now on reducing their emissions. I think if you look at product categories, it's stuff that's less time sensitive. It's Kraft macaroni and cheese, it's ketchup, it's product that doesn't have to be there in 3 or 4 days. And there are a lot of goods moving around the U.S. right now at a time sensitive level that probably don't need to be. And so we're really stretching our supply chain right now. We're stretching trucking, and you're seeing that with the rate request. You're seeing that with the driver shortage. So if anything, we're needing to rethink our supply chains. And a lot of our customers are doing that right now. And rail can be a part of that.
What do you think the biggest capacity constraints are in intermodal as you see them right now? I mean, this year's been such a strange year. We've seen the huge congestion issues at the ports, particularly the West Coast ports. But you also think of there's not a tremendous amount of supply of domestic intermodal containers. Maybe terminals are getting close to needing investment there. Where do you see are the biggest capacity constraints?
All the above. I would say, definitely going to be in containers. Definitely going to be in chassis. The terminals, I think we're doing a really good job keeping up with our terminals. We're making significant investment in those terminals, expanding those terminals. We have a number of projects ongoing this year, and we're looking at new opportunities as well. So the main thing that we've done at our terminals is to increase efficiency. We can get many more trucks through there in a given day than what we could historically through our investments in technology. And so that adds capacity at those terminals. But at the end of the day, you got to have chassis. You got to have containers.
And how do you think about collaboration with other Class 1 railroads? Does there need to be more collaboration for things like, interchange agreements and those things for, some of the longer haul intermodal in order to extend the reach that maybe the customer wasn't receiving before?
We're always collaborating with Class 1s. In fact, over 50% of our product touches another railroad. And so we have ongoing engagements with the other roads, particularly in regards to intermodal. We share a lot of the same customers. Those customers have expectations of us, and they expect us to collaborate. They are looking at us. They are demanding that, and so I don't see that going away. We're having to meet their demands because we know who their customers are. In lots of cases, it's the big BCOs, it's the big retailers. And so they carry a big stick. And so we're going to continue to improve our service in those areas, particularly in the area of premium and intermodal.
That's exciting. I think it's a lot of opportunity, when that service improves when it gets more truck-like, it really improves the entire value proposition. And I think it's going to be huge for the environmental, impact of the entire North American supply chain. Josh, what do you think are the next steps now for, Norfolk Southern's sustainability, plan? How do you plan to spend the next, couple of years, maybe before and after sort of the dust settles with COVID, and how do you see maybe other modes, whether it's truck, the ports, maybe even barge, sort of fitting into that picture?
I think a lot of the focus right now for me is engagement. And engagement, a lot of that right now is internal. We've relaunched our Corporate Sustainability Advisory Council that has representatives from multiple departments. And it's not just a council that meets quarterly. These are the ambassadors for sustainability in every single one of those groups, whether that be in sourcing or in marketing or in transportation. And it's really thinking about how do we ingrain sustainability as part of our value. And I'll compare it to safety. If you think about the safety culture, how the railroads in general started developing that in the 1980s. Safety now is just a part of our industry. It's just who we are. It's who our employees are. And I see sustainability going that same way. I think there's a lot of things that we do internally as a company that we may not regard as safety or as sustainability. And so what I do as part of my messaging is I go out and capture those stories. I go out and identify projects, individuals that are doing things that they're great for the economics, they're great for the environment, and they're great for social. And we highlight those things. We highlight those internally through our online social platforms. We highlight those in our corporate responsibility report. And so it's really about engaging our employees first, making them realize what sustainability is, and being a leader in that regard. And secondly, it's going to be on the customer side. Believe it or not, a lot of our customers are just now starting their sustainability and their ESG journey. So we're assisting them in that regards. Many of them just appointed CSOs in the last couple of years. So they are reaching out to us. They're wanting advice, and we're going to assist them in that regards. We've been a leader in this field, and we're going to continue to work with our customers. Our investors, they expect sustainability. That's a highlight. Talking in shareholder engagement calls, they want to know what we're doing, particularly in the area of emissions. That is our largest environmental footprint. Over 90% of all our emissions come from locomotive diesel. And we're making good traction in that area, and we're going to continue to do so.
So it sounds like pretty much every stakeholder, has an interest in seeing the railroad run sustainably, and also just the sustainability of the supply chains overall in North America.
Yeah, I think you're seeing that in the consumer base. If you look at the consumers' habits, particularly millennials, they're wanting to purchase things that are from sustainability. Well, guess what? Those same millennials are now logistics managers at companies, that are now starting to make those decisions. And, sustainability is becoming one of those factors. It's not just, the cost, the time, the convenience. They're now saying, well, how is sustainability a factor? How can we lower emissions by shifting not all products destined for rail, but this part of the business to rail? And, consumers' decisions are going that route. And I think the younger generation is going that route. So I think it's definitely going to be an advantage for rail going forward.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of initiatives within the railroad, and you're doing a lot there on sustainability. I think that's all the time we have, but I definitely want to thank you. Thanks, Josh, for your time today, and I hope all the viewers continue to enjoy the FreightWaves Net Zero Summit.